Hey, I'm Mac. Welcome back to my channel. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe and consider joining my Patreon for access to new videos 12 to 24 hours early. All right, so we're going to do at least one more part of my little victory lap against the Hollises. I'm so sorry. I was under the weather the past few days. I just had a head cold, because those still exist. But I'm feeling a lot better now. So I thought we would go ahead and I just feel like we need some relationship advice, to check in on our relationship. So I heard of this podcast. It's called Rise Together. It's by these two people. They're totally in love. I think that they will never get divorced. And this is episode 71. And I don't know what happens after this, but I'm pretty sure this is a couple that's definitely going to stay together. So it's a really good thing that they are, marketing this product that is going to give advice to people who feel like they're having trouble in their relationship. Like, thank God that this exists. Thank God it's a thing. This episode was recorded Halloween, or I'm not sure. I think it's November 1st of 2019. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's like 5 to 8 months before the divorce, right? And I think we can see that clearly everything was fine. Everything was fine, you guys. Everything was fine. If you have a sensitivity to awkwardness, I don't know how to help you. Then after this, I know I have some new submissions. So the next video after this, we're gonna hit up some MLMs, because that's what we're here for. Okay, this is not a Rachel Hollis channel. It's not. Okay. I have to check back in on my MLM hunts. The submissions coming, and thank you to everyone who has sent in submissions. I love you guys. I made these protein balls, and I'm still finding them in my teeth.
We are talking about an episode that we did about 18 months ago, which was the State of the Union on your relationship. And here's the gist. Or do we have a clip we could play?
Hey guys, I want to make sure that I am creating content that is exactly what you want to hear. So will you tell me which part of this video is your absolute favorite? Comment below and tell me, did something make you laugh? Did something make you cry? Did something super motivate you or light a fire under your butt, or any old thing at all? Let me know down below, and make sure you tell me what minute it happened at so that I can create around that exact thing. Thanks, guys.
All right, I just want to let you guys know that I will never ask that of you. Wow. So if anything in this entire video made you laugh or felt at all motivational, I need to know what second that happened in, okay? Because I guess I'm just out of ideas and I'm just desperate. So you need to let me know what second that happened. That's a lot to ask of that just sounds really desperate. It's shouldn't the whole thing be kind of fun and inspirational, or am I asking too much? Is that what's going on here? Ugh. That was just so extra.
Play us that clip.
Really the idea of a question that we feel like everybody in a romantic relationship needs to ask themselves, and needs to ask themselves pretty regularly, which is, are we growing? Are we growing together? Are we growing more in love? Are we better off now than we were a year ago? Or are we dying? Because any living thing is one of those two things.
You can't be in the middle.
You can't. You're either growing or you're dying. An animal,
Yeah, if you're a tumor cell.
grass, humans are either growing or they're dying.
What? I mean, I guess if you really want to have a really depressive look at it, but I guess if you really want to look at it really depressively, you could say that you start dying at your mid-20s or whatever, but I choose not to look at it that way. I would say you're not dying. I would just say you're kind of just at your peak, and then you're at your peak for a while, And even then I wouldn't say you're dying. I would just say some things are going and that's it. There's no need to label it dying. Like, to me, dying means like you're going to be dead tomorrow. Okay. There's really no need to look at it that way. Yikes. And you really don't want to be growing all the time, because like if you're growing all the time, eventually you'll be, okay, I hate to be don't accuse me of being Jordan Peterson here, because I'm not. If you're a lobster, you're just growing. Lobsters literally are growing or they're dying, because lobsters, they just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And then eventually they die of exhaustion when they molt because they're too big. Well, or they get eaten by predators. But, that's how lobsters are. Lobsters are either growing or they're dying. And they're dying because they kept growing. You just die of exhaustion because you're too big. But that's not people, okay? People are growing until they're like late teens, early 20s. And then you're not growing or dying. Let's be real. That's not the way that we look at it. So, and I feel like if you're always expecting your relationship to be growing, that just doesn't seem reasonable. Like, maybe you're just in a stable, nice place.
Growing or they're dying. So what does your relationship look like right now? And the way that I think you can answer this question, are we growing? Are we dying? Are we stagnant? Do we feel stuck? Do we feel like we can't get past this place? Or do we feel like we sort of are repeating ourselves? Is, are you more in love with your partner than you were a year ago?
Woo.
Listen to that clip.
Don't I?
That just seems, all of these questions seem like they would not be very helpful to ask in a relationship. And I'm not saying that's the reason. I'm saying that just seems like a toxic question to ask. Like, are we more in love or are we stagnant? Like, dang. I don't know. Maybe you're more in love on some days and you're more in love on other days. Okay. But like, it averages out. I feel like if you set yourself up to have such unreasonable, unrealistic goals, like, yeah, there's going to be some disappointment there. If you're setting your sights that high, you're going to have some good days. You have some bad days. And, hopefully you get through the bad days because, you love each other. Although, what do I know? I'm single.
I feel like I just listened to myself in 7th grade. Like, my voice is like, oh, this is before you went through puberty.
You've become a woman.
I've become a woman.
Finally.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly didn't wait very long, Dave.
I'm so glad. Also, we were...
Holy shit. Okay, so this is late 2019. Wow. He looks like he has aged like 30 years in 3 years. This was less than 3 years ago. This is like 2.5 years ago. Wow. So I don't know what I'm just saying. Holy shit. Look how young he looks. Like 2.5 years ago, November 2019.
Recorded that on the floor of our
I know.
closet.
It's so funny. I like flash back to being on the floor of the closet.
What's with the clipboards? What's with the empty clipboards?
Such a weird thing.
It's such a weird thing. It feels like if you go back 18 months in our relationship, I think. Oh, so an interesting thing is that we cannot talk about our relationship today without talking about the business, because the business is like this third part of our relationship. There's me, there's Dave, there's the Hollis Company. And it is such a massive part of our life. And because so much of our life now is wrapped up in taking care of the business, growing the business, scaling the business, leading this team, it's become this like what is it called, Paul? What is it called when a couple, there's like 3 people in a couple? Polyamorous, which is what I thought, but then I thought I was making up that
I
term.
was going to say a recipe for an affair leading to divorce, but
What, Dave? What was that? Yikes. Like, something you want to talk about, Dave? Is there what? Is there something that you wanted to discuss? Is there something you guys aren't telling us about? What was that? Yeah, and it's only going to get worse from here. Like, wow. Okay. And you know what? I'm sorry that you feel this way about the business being part of your relationship, but you literally made it part of your relationship when you created the Rise Together conference. So I don't know what you expected to happen. Like, you were actually monetizing your relationship. So what did you think was going to happen? So hard to really, it's hard to empathize with this at all because I don't know what you expected. You brought him in, after he totally voluntarily left his job at Disney. He becomes the CEO here because he's a douchebag. And then, so what did all of you think was going to happen? I don't get it.
continue.
But I feel like that it is this third thing. And if even hearing that clip from a year and a half ago, I'm like, gosh, the biggest concern that those 2 fools had was making sure that there was an episode of Rise Together that week.
Ah, bless.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And think of how hard that felt at the time. And now I'm like, oh, you silly, dumb child. You have no idea. Because I think it is, I don't know. I mean, it's like parts of our relationship have grown and evolved and changed so much since then. It's like, it's so much bigger. Our
Yeah.
relationship means something so much bigger today. And I'm not saying that in a like Pollyanna, like it's richer and more beautiful and more intimate and more, no, it's just like, there's a lot more responsibility in our relationship today than there was 18 months ago.
It's funny because I think of it through an almost even different lens. The person who was sitting on the floor of our closet in July of 2018 is very different from the person who sits in this podcast room in November of 2019.
Well, for one thing, I am dressed like Hulk Hogan.
It is Halloween as
It's
we're
Halloween.
recording this. I was trying to suggest that it was November. It's in fact October 31st,
Yeah.
but the headline ends up
Whoa. So I think that was a dig at her. I'm pretty sure. Cause at first I was like, wait, so is it October 31st or is it not? So I think he's just making fun of, he's just, being rude to her right there. Like, so I guess we're bitter about something. I don't know what it is, Dave. Let me know if you can figure out what the fuck happened before this podcast, okay? Because I cannot. I just know that this is the most incredibly uncomfortable thing I've ever seen. So good.
being that the like individuals that we each are in terms of what we do and who we are and how we show up for our lives and how we have confidence in the roles that we play and they're all different.
Isn't it crazy
In a year
how
and a half,
much we've changed
they're
in a
all
year and
different.
a half?
Yeah, they're all
Crazy.
different. Yeah.
Like, I know you listeners can't know this. For us, like, you don't know us well enough personally to know how much we've changed in a year and a half. But even as a listener, think about your own life. When you look at yourself a year and a half, 2 years ago, have you changed? That's probably a really interesting place to start, because this is about relationships, the idea of you're growing or you're dying. You can't sort of have a foot in both worlds. But what about you personally? Have you grown as a person? Have you changed? Have you evolved? And by the way, hopefully you have become something better and new and changed in a positive way and not a negative one.
I mean, I've been like really ruminating in this idea that you've got to be uncomfortable and like comfortable with the discomfort of something that is outside of your. I mean, if I say the word comfort once again, I'm going to turn into freaking Beetlejuice over here. But you know, like becoming comfortable in discomfort is a theme for me in real time, because it is the thing that is producing growth, and growth is what I'm just in the hunt for. But man, I feel like the difference between who I was then and who I am now is I am way more comfortable with being uncomfortable. I don't love it every single day necessarily, but I know that it's for me, and I know that I've grown a massive amount in this year and a half because of that distinction. When I think about our relationship,
I feel like that's Rachel's "I don't agree with this at all" face. I can't believe what this idiot is saying in front of my face. Anybody else? Anybody else? Let me see. A year and a half ago, that would have been like right around when I was starting the current era of this channel. So hello, hi.
our relationship has changed a lot, like more than I think I would have thought it might in the last 18 months, because of the way that we've each become more comfortable with who we are and what we do, the challenges of what has been an extraordinary amount of travel for you, the way that we've scaled this company.
An extraordinary amount of travel for you. Like, what? Were you guys not? That seems like that might be a piece of it right there. I don't know. Maybe something was going on at home. I don't know. I'm sure one of you will comment and you'll have it all figured out, and I'll be like, oh.
And the complexity of that third person in our relationship, the company introducing a responsibility to the now 60 people that work here, but also the way that the conversation for this thing that we have so much passion for, our business, is a currency inside of the relationship that we
So we know that inside of it, it started at least as early as 2019.
have, in a way that it wasn't when we were first here in Texas. When we were sitting on the floor of that darn closet, we had a sense of what we were.
Rachel's just like, can't believe this motherfucker's still talking. He's talking out his ass right now. He sure has a lot of nerve. That's what I'm reading off of her. And I feel like Dave is trying to convince her of something. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, like, kind of reading into it. Plus, we all have hindsight now,
But it hadn't manifested itself into becoming yet. And so I know for me anyway, I had what felt like a lot of pressure to have this choice that I made that I believed was the right one to actually be the right one. And it hadn't yet fully come together. I was very anxious about my knowing that leaving certainty for this was the thing, but it was still so uncertain that I was insecure in July of 2018 in a way that I am way less, completely differently.
Yeah.
I'm way more secure and happy and know. And frankly, what's really, I think, great, this is a ramble, sorry, is I still have as many unknowns today as I had before. But I have changed the way that I process unknowns such that I am excited about and am comfortable dealing through and working through the unknowns in a way that unknowns just felt overwhelming then.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it doesn't make it necessarily easier every single day, but because of how much fruit has come from sitting in the unknowns that have happened in the last year and a half,
Yeah.
I'm excited about what it means for our relationship because of how many things are new today and what it will mean for, that many more new things to come in the next year and a half.
Listen, it's got to be fucking hard just to listen to this man. All right. Rachel says a lot of nothing, but like she's at least entertaining while she does it. She kind of has a point. It's just I don't like what her point is. Okay. Good Lord. This man is insufferable.
Ahead.
Yeah. I think, I love, there's a quote, and I'm not going to say it right, and I don't know who said it, but it's something like,
It's all right. That's about par for the course for you, Rachel. God, I'm so mean to both of them, but they kind of both deserve it.
you have to dream a dream for yourself or your relationship or your family or your business. You dream a dream that's so big that in order to achieve it, you actually have to become a different person. And I think that's what we did.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're doing. I think that's why we look back to 18 months ago and we're like, who even are those people? And imagine a decade ago. You can't,
no.
Sweet listeners, you can't even understand. We are unrecognizable from the couple who got married
Thank goodness.
15 years ago. We have a lot of
Thank goodness. Ooh. Thank goodness. What the hell does that mean, Dave? Thank goodness. Oh my God. Like, I can't believe, number one, I can't believe that they recorded this and put it up in the first place. Like, that they recorded this in the first place and then put it up. Like, got it edited by someone and then presumably approved it and had it put up. And then that it's still up now.
have a lot of those core things. Our humor's still there. We have a lot of inside jokes that are the same. We have very different, we have very similar sensibilities about values and what we love and what we don't love. But it's not even, you can't even recognize who those people were. And I think part of it is because we, in particular with where we are right now, we dreamed a dream so big that we had to become someone new. And I think it'll be fascinating to have this conversation a year from now.
Ooh. Oh, and why is that, Rachel? Fascinating. Like, God, it's like, it's like a Greek tragedy where it's going to happen. So then you have the dramatic irony of the fact that the audience knows what's going to happen, but they seem to not know what's going to happen. Although it seems like it's mostly Dave that doesn't know what's going to happen. It kind of seems like Rachel knows what's going to happen, because why else would she think it was going to be fascinating? Just fascinating.
Here, the one thing that happened between when we recorded that podcast originally sitting on that floor and now,
The one thing. That's hilarious.
But one of the more important things.
Damn. The one thing that's hilarious. Like, can you guys go fight somewhere else? Like, do you know that we're here? Like, we can leave.
For me, in processing the way that I think about who I am and who we are as a couple, I went through the process of writing this book that, in going through each of these chapters, a lot of them were about some of the dynamics of our relationship, that in understanding a little bit better why I've been wired for the way that I show up in this relationship, or why the ways that I was, mistaking how you had a set of needs that I could satisfy, or that I was supposed to fix certain things, or that I needed you to, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. I went on this journey to try and write this book, and in spending time almost like in therapy in each of the chapters, it changed the way I thought about a lot of the things that I used to think, mm-hmm. which is, not a process, frankly. I wouldn't have been as introspective about who I am and who we are if it weren't for the fact that I was working through a word count. Now, what a blessing in disguise. I mean, it was one of the hardest things in the world to do, but man, I'm so grateful for it now, because I do think differently about my identity in this relationship, and the needs that you have in this relationship, and who I'm supposed to be in this relationship, and all that kind of stuff. And it's in part a byproduct of having done an exercise that I normally would not necessarily have actually taken on if it weren't for the fact that I was writing.
So we are talking about episode 2 of the Rise Together podcast. If you want to go listen to us take a deep dive into this topic, episode 2 is the one where we really pull this apart and tell you how we approached it and how to build your own core values. It's like an incredible episode. But we thought it would be interesting to kind of revisit what this means to us today. And I think today it sounds like this really lands for us in like, we for sure aren't dying. We're growing. We're almost growing so fast that there's growing pains.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not something we touched on a year ago. A year ago, we were just like, make sure you're growing. And now the reality is sort of like, how do you deal with the growing pains? Because we have had a lot of growing pains this year.
Yeah. What's interesting is we were talking, episode 2 was called "Is Your Relationship is Either Growing or Dying?" And we were so proud of the fact that our relationship was growing because we just made this huge decision to move our family
Right.
and work together and chase these dreams. And at the time, even though there was uncertainty and it was scary and it was new, it was still new, and we had not yet, in like wading into those waters, experienced the undercurrent and the
Yep.
craziness and the rocks in the bottom and all that kind of stuff. And like we've said before, this has been I would argue, best year of our marriage and the hardest year of our marriage. Because
Absolutely.
working together and being together as much as we are, and the emotion of ego involved in trying to run this company together, and division of labor,
Yeah.
and the stresses of travel and everything else. Like,
That seems like an important piece right there. The ego involved. That's an interesting thing to say.
it's compounding in a way that has, under that pressure, produced a diamond, but
Yeah.
also it's pressure.
Well,
It's-
and I think it is crazy to say that 2019 was the hardest year of our lives.
Oh, this is my chance to go, oh, you sweet little innocent babies.
Because we have walked through very hard things.
Oh, have you?
But it absolutely has been the hardest year of our relationship.
for sure.
Like, we've broken up before when we were first dating, and this year was harder.
She trying to signal to him that like you don't understand. Like I feel that's what I'm picking up. I'm picking up like you don't understand that I will fucking divorce you.
Because the stakes were 100 times more intense. And because, we talk about this quite a bit, this idea of when you are in a romantic relationship, it is supposed to be the two of you against the world, right? It is not supposed to be the world's problems making you and your partner turn against each other. And this year took every ounce of energy and willpower and intentionality to step back from wanting to find the friction in you instead of the problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the problems that have popped up because of working together for the first time and running this business mean that it feels like we have problems because the business has problems.
Yeah.
And then the business having problems taps on both of our insecurities or our ego or our pride or whatever. And then that has caused friction between the two of us. So, we've always said this thing about it's us against the world. But this last year, we've had to really fight to stay in that mindset, I think.
I totally agree. The reality too is I've had this recognition in like the very most recent bit of time, and that is there are things that we do in the course of working together that if we weren't working together wouldn't be something that triggered ego, wouldn't be something that felt hard, wouldn't be anything other than just like the normal way that you and I end and have ended our day for the last 18 years.
Yeah.
So I'm getting that the ego is a huge portion of this. And I kind of agree that it should be. I just think it's so trashy that he came in as the CEO. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. Dave, I don't care what you're looking to do after this. And plus, I don't see you having become another CEO after this. Wasn't your justification that if you were going to go into something else in corporate, then you would need to have been the CEO? Well, what's your next corporate opportunity, Dave? So why are you the CEO? Why? Yeah, it's your ego, okay? You can't handle the fact that she runs this thing, okay? And I don't know what it is going on here, but that's what I'm picking up.
Yeah.
But because we work together, there are
Mind you, these people sold Rise Together conference with tickets running sometimes thousands of dollars for marriage advice. Their relationship's so perfect. So perfect.
things that now tip into this place of being emotional triggers. And when you're trying so hard, when you're traveling so much, when you're doing everything that you possibly can to serve this audience and create these tools, when what was a normal thing now becomes an emotional trigger and you're already frayed because of it being a lot, it just becomes harder. It becomes harder. By the way, I think part of what has been harder for me, deciding to not drink for a year in the midst of our hard year.
Picked a bad year to stop drinking.
I picked a bad year to stop drinking. Picked a bad year to stop sniffing glue. I mean, like,
What?
that's a line from a movie.
Oh, okay.
What the fuck was that? Anyway, just in case anyone is telling me that like he's not had a problem with alcohol, people who don't have problems drinking don't pick years to stop drinking. And I'm thinking this is probably a bigger cause of the friction. Okay. So perhaps maybe he told her that he stopped drinking, and maybe that's not what was occurring.
David,
I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
you're making a joke. These people are going to think you actually do that.
No, I don't. I picked a bad year. I mean, it's not.
It's a really good time to make a joke, Dave. It's a really good time to make a joke.
It's not a bad
also
year.
a joke. It's a good year.
It's a good
always
year.
a good year to not
It's a fantastic
abuse
year to
alcohol.
transition from negative coping mechanisms to positive coping mechanisms. But the decision to fully experience the friction, the breaking down of the muscle, the pain of being outside of a comfort zone means that you're sitting in pain.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I can stay anchored to, even on the days when it feels like, goodness gracious, this relationship of ours is being tested or is being pushed or pulled in ways that it hasn't been before, I know that for me personally, because of having been in this posture for the last year of like, you know what, I'm going to sit in a way and learn in a way and be challenged in a way and be triggered in a way that is going to change me for the better on the other side. I do believe that we're going to create some callus and some ways of working and some emotional resilience, and will come out the other side of what in real time can feel like, man, this is harder than it, feels like it needs to be, because we're still in like, I don't know how you do it when you're like thinking of
She's so fucking done.
a small business, but it's like, we're still a toddler when it comes
Yeah.
to us working
Yeah,
together.
I think you think of your business or your relationship as if it were a child that were that age.
Yeah.
So we have a 15-year-old. You know what I mean? For our relationship.
Well, the thing is, we have a 15-year-old, but I think of the things that have been additional stressors. They're only 2 years old. Like
Yes.
our decision to work together. And
I meant our marriage.
I-
as a 15-year-old.
I
I see.
I
see.
yeah. And what I'm saying is, our marriage, yes, is 15 years old, but
It's like we added
It's like
a kid.
we adopted, we
Yeah.
brought in, something that now requires an extra level of stuff that
And
just didn't exist before.
I feel like it's important to say, because I feel like people could be listening to this right now and like, my Lord, why do you even do this? Like, y'all sound tired and beaten down.
Oh, that's me.
And, this has been so hard. Like, why do you even do this? The fruit, the harvest from this, like 2019 has been 100% hardest year of our relationship. The most impact we've ever had, the most success we've ever had. We've scaled our business to 60 people, still creating great things, amazing stuff on the horizon. Our kids are thriving, are like so many good things, There's an incredible harvest that we are reaping from being willing to stay in the hard season.
Yeah. Like in the thing too that's been, whether it's a light or breadcrumbs or whatever you want to call it, the end of a tunnel.
That means money, right? So it's money. So that's why you're doing this, is money. So that's why you're deceiving people about the quality of your relationship is money. Okay, cool.
Or whatever you want to call it, the end of a tunnel. The couples who have themselves decided to embark on something like this, who've poured into us to tell us that there is something that after you break through the beginnings of figuring this thing out, that you'll figure out a rhythm, that you'll figure out a way to fight more constructively, that you'll find a way to only pick the battles that actually matter, that you'll find a way to, at some point, potentially turn off at certain times of day. But the good news, I think in any of it, we've stayed consistent with our date night. We still make out on the reg, boo.
Yeah.
I love
you too.
Right? And so it's like, even on the days where it's been hard, I see the things that we've decided to walk into together as the things that are testing and preparing us for what we are pursuing long term. And in a year, we're going to look back and be like, man, those kids, those babies. We'll play a clip from,
from this
Halloween 2019.
We'll be like, oh, remember when we thought it would, there'll be something else hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because you and I do not shy away from growth. And if you are going to pursue growth, you are pursuing discomfort. It just is the reality.
Yeah.
So new levels, new devils. We're going to level up. There'll be a whole new bucket of crap that we get to deal with next year.
Bring it on.
And I think that's an interesting thing for you as you've started working as an entrepreneur, is understanding that another thing's going to go wrong tomorrow.
Yeah. By the way,
there's no finally check the boxes and pull the levers enough time and push the button enough time, and now from here on out we're good.
Yeah. Just that. There is a reframing or rewiring, whatever you want to call it, of what I used to think about things going wrong as them being some reflection of my inadequacy, of my not having maybe the kind of equipment to handle the thing that is happening. And instead, I've been able to, intellectually, I understand. When you're scaling, when you are reaching for this kind of impact, when you're growing the team as we are, when we're doing all these things not going well regularly is the price of entry. It just is the way that things go. I know that intellectually. Emotionally, I still have my days because I'm working against 44 years of wiring that was just different.
44 years of everything going perfectly for you is what it is, Dave. And honestly, things are still at this point going perfectly for you. Okay, so let's just get that crystal clear here, okay? God, when you think that this is things going poorly, it seems like that's the main thing. Seems like he's just a douchebag all the time. And before this, at least he would be at Disney, away, out, not here. Okay, and so he's a douchebag, but at least he's not a douchebag who's here all the time. And now he is.
But the good news is every day that I get a little bit closer to a cost of entry, it's just going to be hard like this. It's okay that it's hard. This doesn't mean you're bad, lacking, not enough, any of those things. I can take those business learnings and I get to apply them as much to the relational stuff that exists between you and I when our growing pains end up rearing their head, because those aren't things either that are necessarily going to be like, oh, good, we fixed them, it's all roses.
Yeah.
You know, like, we're going to fix the things that end up popping up one day to the next, and then new things will pop up. And when you realize that, like, new things popping up is just kind of par for the course, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's roll through that too.
This might come as a shock to some of you. I'm just kidding when I say that. But as someone who's a little bit neurotic, but I feel like I've gotten to a place where I can kind of like recognize when I'm being neurotic, when I'm letting that kind of get a little bit more ahead of me. Because I'm pretty good at, I'm pretty good at knowing when now might not be the best time to say something. Like, now might be a good time to kind of see like why I'm feeling this way. But what I'm picking up in Dave is neurotic. And like neurotic that is that he's just expecting everyone else to deal with, which is like that's never gonna work until you can deal with your own neuroses. Like other people can't deal with them because it's too much, and you're just being an asshole to them, expecting them to carry this like bitterness that you have. Like, that's just never gonna work. Like, honestly, like for me, it was kind of just going through getting sober and stuff that kind of helped me to see like where this is something that you need to go through with yourself. You know, this feeling, you're gonna have to deal with that yourself. You can't just like unload that onto other people because it's not their fault and it's not their responsibility. Like, that's something where you need to be like, I think I'm looking at this really negatively. You know, I think I need to kind of, you know, let's be a little bit more constructive about this. That's something that I've kind of had to work through. And you know, you have your days, but you can't act like this, Dave. You can't act like this, and then you can't act like this, act like you've worked through it, and then clearly have not worked through it, okay? You can't just keep saying, oh, I'm a work in progress, because like, yeah, you are, but the fact that you need to keep saying it suggests that the work in progress is not happening as quickly as it needs to. I'm just saying. And that's why, as of this clip, you still haven't stopped drinking. Have you? You haven't.
So if you want to dig into this idea of where your relationship is, what's the status, are we getting better, are we getting worse, listen to episode 2 of the Rise Together podcast. But the gist and the intentionality behind today's episode is just that you will ask yourself this question, that you will open it up for conversation between you and your partner. Hey, are we more in...
It's another thing. Like, and perhaps this is just the angles, but I think the angles are pretty much mirror image. Like, I think there's one camera looking across at Rachel, and there's another one that's like mirror image looking across at Dave. Rachel has been mostly looking like at Dave or looking at the camera. You know, when she's got something to say to us directly, she's looking at the camera. Dave is like looking over here. So I don't know what you're saying about that discomfort that you have, Dave. Okay. Because why are you looking? You're not looking at Rachel. You're not looking at the camera. So you're supposed to look at one of the things. Like, what if the whole time I'm just like, so I feel like I've gotten a lot more comfortable in front of the camera, you guys. Like, it's just that, well, I was just, you know, really uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. But like, now I'm a lot more comfortable with being uncomfortable. So that's why you can tell that I'm really comfortable with being on camera now. Like, no, it doesn't really look like you are, because, you know, there's not even a real person here and you're not even looking at the lens, because like the camera is right in front of you. Okay.
Love today than we were when we first got together. And if we're not, we need to have a very serious conversation as to why.
The one thing that we did in that episode that I thought was such a powerful tool was establish your relationship values.
Yep.
Right? If you're not as in love or more in love with your partner today than you were a year ago, or today but then, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, when you first met, it may be because you have divergent values that you've like moved away from what you each have as a core value for your relationship. One of the quotes from the episode that I love too, the idea that your new life is going to cost you your old one, right? Like, I know for us that this thing that we are pursuing, this vision of ourselves, mean that certain pieces of our identity that exist today will be shed in the pursuit of where we're heading. Just thinking back to where we were on the floor of the closet a year and a half ago, that has been the real-time learning of what has happened in just our last year and a half. It's going to happen to you as well. You need to become comfortable with that change being a thing that will inevitably take place if you want an exceptional relationship.
If you like this episode, please screenshot it and put it on social. Tag me at Miss Rachel Hollis, tag Dave at Mr. Dave Hollis, and let us know what you thought and what you want to hear about on an upcoming episode. Also, subscribe, because you listen to this podcast all the time and you aren't subscribing, which means you don't get a notification every single time we post a new thing. So do that.
If you really like the episode, review the darn thing. Please go on to iTunes, put a review up there. Tell people that you like it. It helps other people be aware of why they should also listen to this darn podcast. You want me to stop talking?
I've tried to end it like 4 times. You just keep adding on.
Also, goodbye.
Oh. Big yikes. Yeah, I told you it was going to be awkward. I told you. What do you mean, did we like it? Of course we didn't like it. If someone liked that video, they have a problem. They're oblivious, okay? How could someone like that? It's so... So these are people who are giving marriage advice to other people and charging them money for it. So, this is what you get with the self-help industry, okay? Next video, we're gonna circle back to some MLM content, because I miss it. I've been on this for too long. But I can't promise that we won't circle back to this too from time to time. And also this whole impact theory thing, I'm not done with them. Because it's a whole weird thing going on there. It's a whole weird ecosystem. So we're definitely not done with impact theory. So, just get over it. I've been Mac. Peace out. Bye.